She's a mother. She's a singer. She wears a lot of hats and she's had many jobs. Music has taken her from New York to Tokyo as well as stages all over Cleveland. Shirley Cook, her story, right here on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky. Stormy weather since my man and I ain't together. Keeps raining all the time.
I was born in West Virginia. My brother and I have a brother that we were born in West Virginia. That's where I'm from. My family came to Cleveland in 1952. So it was my grandma and all my father's sisters and brothers and everybody was from West Virginia. And my grandmother moved in a house on Cedar Avenue on 25th and Cedar across from the juvenile detention home. At that time, it was I was, very young, my brother and I, and my cousins and everybody, but it was a very diverse area, and we had a lot of friends, and it's different than then it was different than it is now. Everybody got along. We had great neighbors, stuff like that. My grandmother was this is my father's mom I'm talking about. We all went to church, It was 5 families in the house that we lived in on Cedar. And my aunts were all, all of her children went to church, and they were singers. They were gospel singers. So I basically saw a lot of, heard a lot of music. Watched my aunts rehearse every week. And I enjoyed it. I was young, but at a certain age, I asked my aunts, could I sing with them? Because I did, as I'm sitting there every week watching and listening, I'm learning the songs. And I know I asked my aunt Ada, I said, can I sing one song? And she said, you don't know these songs. I said, yes, I do. And so she allowed me to sing a song with them. And after that, it was history. I think at that time I had to be, I don't know how old I was. I was very young. I can't even remember how old I was.
Can you
remember Mario?
Can you remember any of the songs that they were singing that you took a fancy to?
I believe Trouble's in My Way. His Eyes on the Sparrow. It was a lot of songs. Higher Ground. When You Hear My Home Going. Those type songs. Those are old spiritual songs.
Mm-hmm. Gospel songs.
Yeah, they was real deep gospel songs. So it's my grandma, they were Pentecostal. So when you come from a Pentecostal church, very spiritual, people.
And Pentecostal was kind of spirited too. I mean, you went to a Pentecostal church, they were definitely praising the Lord.
They were praising the Lord and they were shouting, and the choirs were singing. They had powerful choirs.
Okay.
Yes.
So then you pretty much came up in the church as a singer.
I came up in the church, and one of the reasons I enjoyed going to church because of the singing. I love to hear the choir, or I love to be able to participate, at that time. I was very young, like I said, so yeah, I grew up with my aunts and things in the church. And at 15, I was still going to church. It was a different church at that time. And every place that I went, I always made it a point to be in the choir.
Mm-hmm. I want to just go back just a little bit because you mentioned the move from West Virginia to Ohio or to Cleveland, 25th and Cedar. And I'm always curious about what precipitated the migration. Do you know, are you aware of why they moved from West Virginia to Cleveland?
No.
Okay.
I really don't, but it could have been because of the jobs. Because I know that my father and my uncles all worked for Eaton Axle when they came to Cleveland. Eaton Axle must have been hiring and maybe for more jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because where we were from, West Thames and Beckley, were coal mining towns.
Okay.
You know, there was a coal mine. There was a lot of. We lived in a coal mining town. We had row houses there,
Mm-hmm.
and they were families that worked in the coal mines.
Okay. So
You understand what I'm?
Mm-hmm, I understand exactly. So at some point, the decision was made, and then you moved to Cleveland, and as they say, the rest is history. And you described how Cedar has changed. So at one point, there was a certain sense of community. Everybody knew everybody on the street, and over a period of time, that changed. Can you talk about your perception of how Cleveland has changed over the years, and then we'll come back to your musician life?
You know, when as I the way I grew up, I learned to everybody shared. There was a lot of sharing going on in the neighborhoods. You know, it wasn't like it is now. You know, the neighbors were close. It didn't matter. You know, it was very diverse. You know, houses were close to each other. I mean, we could go over neighbors' houses and have lunch or sandwiches with our friends. They could come over our house. It didn't matter. We didn't look at gender. We just enjoyed life. And on Sundays, you know, my grandma, we go to church, we come home. My grandma fixed dinner. It was always inviting people over for dinner and things like that, you know. Then they started building these projects on, I think it was Central. No, Quincy. It was on Quincy. Because after a while, I noticed by me being younger, I'm just seeing things move. You know, my aunts started moving out of my grandmother's house, and when they moved out of my grandmother's house, they moved. I know my aunt Bootsy, she moved on Central. My aunt Lola, she was over there in the projects on Central as well, and my aunt Kay, she lived up by 55th. I know where all of them live because I was always around them. She lived on 55th Street in Woodland. My aunt Lois lived on 55th in Woodland because you got to understand, my grandmother had 10 children.
Mm.
So it was a pretty large family, but all of us lived around each other. And my mom, she moved off of Quincy. It was off of 43rd and Quincy, where Project Hall is. It's still the building is still there, but it used to be called Project Hall, and that's where the kids would, you know, they had all kind of different recreation and stuff like that. I was close to the POC where every morning you could go for swimming lessons, and as kids, you know, you go early, you can go for swimming lessons, and at the POC you could watch a good baseball game. You know, I mean, serious baseball games were going on with the older adults and things. It was just really lively, you know. And what is the guy's name that I can't remember right now. My mind is going fast here. Edwin Starr. Remember him?
Yes. He had the hit War.
They used to practice at the Project Hall. They used to before he became, you know, who he was. They used to practice over there, and I used to sneak over there and sit in the corner because we weren't allowed in there when they were practicing. But I would always make it in there so I could just listen, you know. And at that time where we lived, there were hallways, you know, like if you want to come off the little side street and you can walk through the hallway into the big yard, where we were surrounded by projects. And in the hallways were where the young men would go and do harmony. They would sing and do harmony, and they sound good too because the hallway echoed. And I would listen to all that. So it was always something going on, but I was always loved to be around music and things like that.
Okay. So you described growing up listening and singing gospel music, and you've just shared with me that you were observing Edwin Starr, who was known for his hit War.
Right.
What is it good for? Absolutely
What
nothing.
is it good for?
Yeah. So I can see that you had kind of a taste of both worlds, and I'm imagining at some point in time you decided that you wanted to sing the other music as well. So I want to give you a chance to tell us about that switch, or not necessarily a switch, but just an immersion or an exposure to secular music and the impact that it had on your singing career. I'm sure that it's an absolutely fascinating story. We're going to take a quick break right here, and we're going to come back and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the secular side of a Cleveland legend, Shirley Cook. You're listening to Open Door on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back right after this message.
Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear old winter song. But I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall.
What can you do in the battle against COVID-19? Your first task, wear a mask, protect yourself and others. Armor up, armor up. Give those hands a 20-second shower with soap and water. Armor up, armor up. Give others space, 6 feet just in case. Armor up, armor up. Get good nutrition, ingest for digestion. Armor up, armor up. Vitamin C, D3, and more. Armor up, armor up. Elderberries, zinc, and echinacea from the store. Armor up, armor up. Get some fresh air. Go climb some stairs. Armor up, armor up. Let go of stress. Make sure you rest. Armor up, armor up. Your breath is the key to life. Strengthen your immune system, follow the guidelines, and win the battle against COVID-19. Armor up, armor up.
This is Aja Jones,
Tracy Clark, Kiko, Yolanda Armstrong,
Brian Webster.
This is TC Lewis, and you are listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
Start to fall when
We're back on Open Door with our special guest. She's a singer, she's a mother, she's a few other things that we haven't talked about yet, but I'm sure we'll get to. Shirley Cook right here on Open Door. So before we took the break, you were describing being able to hear the magical sounds of harmony in the hallways, and the singer was Edwin Starr. Pick it up from there.
The elementary school that I went to was Althwaite. And Althwaite Elementary School, Terry Hatchett was Edwin's brother. So I was basically, at that time, we were real young, but we were in school together. That was the elementary school that I went to over there. And I used to hear, and they had like street parties, all the time in the projects. You could they block off the street, and there was just music and people dancing, and things like that. So it was real lively. It's very lively. But now, everybody knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody. You know, and there were no strangers there, and you didn't see a lot of fights and kids arguing and stuff like that. It wasn't like that. It was just everybody just seemed to get along. Okay, so I used to get with my little friends and sing, and I had little girlfriends that liked to hear me sing a song or something like that. I got threatened a couple of times. You better sing. And I would sing a song, or something like that. But I used to love to just even the R&B, I like the harmony of groups. Okay, fast forward. From Quincy, my dad bought a home out off of 140th and Kinsman. And before we moved in that home, I stayed on 139th and Kinsman with my aunt and my cousins until I could start school, which would have been Alexander Hamilton on 130th and Kinsman. I had to stay with them in order to get in school before they moved, So I stayed with them, but they had talent shows at the school periodically, and I got to hear a lot of the kids singing and stuff. And I remember this one kid, he was singing Summertime. And I had never heard that music because, like I said, I grew up in the church. I mean, that, not jazz, And so I really liked that song. And I said, I'm going to learn that song, And I learned it. And then my cousin, a friend of ours, and myself, two friends, my cousin and myself, we got a little singing group together. And we started doing talent shows in the different schools around, in that area. And we would buy our outfits and they would be matching, like the Supremes or something. But we had, there's always something around to do. And I had a girlfriend, Fanon West. We used to go in her basement, me, her sister, and we would always sing and harmonize. And my older brother, he used to sing as well. So when the Copa Lounge was on Lee Road, he had a group that he would be with, and they would go around to different places and sing. So it was always something going on.
Mm. And when did it happen that you collaborated with musicians? I mean, it's a beautiful thing to have a person or another person or maybe four people and you can harmonize and sing, but then comes that magic moment when you marry music with the voice. Well, when I got with you're talking about the jazz? Yeah, and just, collaborating with musicians as a singer, because, again, it's one thing to sing. You can stand on a street corner and sing, but then when you connect with a guitarist or a pianist or a combination of all of those things, then you really in another place as a singer. Well, when I was in the church, okay, we always collaborated with musicians. Okay, piano players, drummers. It was always a piano player that could play. And we had rehearsals all the time with piano, drums, guitar, bass, and things like that. So I was around instrumentalists growing up. You understand? Even at my grandmother's house when I was younger, when my aunts had rehearsals there, it was a gentleman named Ralph that played organ and piano, and he would come over because my grandma had a piano in her house. So we was always around, an instrument or of some sort, and plus when I was in junior high school, I took up trumpet at Kennard Junior High. So there was always something around. As far as jazz, I fast forward, I had
by the time I was interested in the jazz, I had been married. I had my children. Um, that was in, and I lived on, where did I live? I lived on Central. After my husband, I lived on Central. And I was working at a place called Bowman Distribution on 72nd and St. Clair. And I would always be listening to my records at home. I told the guy at my job, the manager there, I said, I want to sing. I said, but I want to sing this jazz. And he said, well, why don't I invite you over to my home? And he said, I have a $5,000 collection of albums, and you could come over there and check some of them out, because I hadn't heard a lot of that music. And so I went by there, and he played a album, the Modern Jazz Quartet. And the Modern Jazz Quartet at that time was, at the album that I heard, Summertime was on there. And it was just the music. And I said, where can I get these lyrics? Because I had no idea, And so he told me to go to a music store out on West 140th in Detroit. It was a music store out there. And I hit the road, and I went out there, and I just went crazy looking at the different songs and books and stuff. And I bought quite a few books, fake books, so that I could start learning these songs, not knowing, just wanted to learn, because I wanted to sing, because I enjoyed the music. And he gave me an album with Billie Holiday. I didn't know who she was, and I didn't like the album. And the reason I didn't like the album, because it was just it seemed too emotional. I was like, I don't like this, And I said, here, I gave him his album back. And he said, no, just really listen to it. And when I finally started listening to that album, I found myself in it. And I started to understand it, because before I was just hearing it, I wasn't listening. And I said, this is, And once I started listening to it, I really fell in love with Billie Holiday.
So in essence, what happened was somebody introduced you to this music by virtue of their $5,000 music collection, and then you started studying.
Yes.
You went and got the fake books and books that had the lyrics in them, and you're listening to the music, and then you just kind of dig in, and then you become a singer. Talk to us about what it was like for you to make that quantum leap.
I used to get the Jamie Abersol albums as well. Just the music that had the books in it, that you learn the songs and stuff like that. I didn't learn from listening to singers sing either. I learned from my husband. I married a second time. My second husband, I met through the gentleman that introduced me to the $5,000 collection of albums, and he was a roommate of this gentleman, and so we started practicing together at their home, because he was learning and I was too. So I would go over there every day after work, over to Mr. Swan's house, and the roommate, Lee Jordan, was the one that I would practice with every single day. I couldn't wait to get off from work to go to practice, and he would play the melodies of the songs that I would look, in the books, and I would sing behind that melody. I would learn how to, sing the song through him playing the notes for me.
Right. So it wasn't a matter of you listening to, let's say, Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan or anyone like that. You were listening to the music and then applying your voice to the musicality that you were experiencing.
Absolutely. I didn't even know who Ella was and Billie Holiday or any of those ladies. I'd never listened to jazz before. before that time period that I was talking about. You know, speaking of, I only heard gospel music. We didn't have it in our house. We didn't have R&B and jazz in our homes when we were growing up.
Okay.
So in 1984 was one of my first experiences going to a jam session.
Wow, was that recent?
1984.
Yeah.
And that was a place called Rayzel's on Quincy.
See, I didn't get to Cleveland until 1981, and I mean, I'm a little long in the tooth, but I'm not that old. But I think in 1984, I was probably somewhere around 26, 27 years old, maybe. I can't remember, but it just seems like a long time ago, but a short time ago, you know, especially considering the longevity that you've had as a singer. So 84 seems kind of recent to me, but that's really interesting. And the fact that this was marriage number 2 for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we skipped over a lot of your history, and I'm not going to let us get away from that.
Like, what is it that you want to know?
Well, I mean,
I'm jumping around. You know, you got to talk to me now.
Yeah. And we will, but we are up against it once again. We have to take a break. So when we get back, we'll talk about marriage, maybe one or two, and give you a chance to shout out your children if you want to do that. We're peeling back the layers on this complex person known to the world as Shirley Cook. Enjoying this conversation so much. I hate to take this break, but we must. You're listening to Open Door on WOVU 95.9 FM, a Burton Bell Car community radio station. We'll be right back.
It's a heartache either way, but beautiful. And I'm thinking, if you were mine, I'd never let you go. And that would be but beautiful, I know.
This program is brought to you by Computer Love. Are you ready to get your digital life together? Well, PCs for People is where you need to be. A 501c3 nonprofit organization located at 3126 St. Clair Avenue, PCs for People has desktop computers, laptop computers, and free classes to get you in the mood for some computer love. Call 216-930-5741 or visit PCsForPeople.org. That's 216-930-5741 or visit PCSFORPEOPLE.org. On behalf of WOVU 95.9, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Car community radio station, we extend a special thanks to PCs for People for their support.
We are WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United. United to enhance our community. United to be a beacon of hope. United to empower our community. WOVU 95.9. Our Voices United.
We're back on Open Door with our very special guest, Shirley Cook. So we're just going to rewind just a little bit and just kind of recap what we've learned thus far. And we've learned that somewhere around the year 1984 is when you really got serious about singing jazz, and someone exposed you to this record collection and you started listening to the music, and then you had someone that you were excited about getting off work to come to this place and go through this music and do the practicing. And then at a certain point, you launched your career as a singer. But before that, you got married. you had a couple of children, you were working jobs, and you weren't really living the songstress life. So just give us an inkling of what your life was like before you got to the point where you decided, I'm going to do this.
It was very important to me, and my children were very important to me, and I knew I had to work hard. I didn't want my children to grow up, let's say, with assistance and things. I wanted them to see me working because that's all I knew, because I didn't graduate. Okay. I didn't graduate from high school because of something that happened in my life when I was 14 years old. So I did not graduate from school. And so I had to get out and work. So I did. I had a child at a very early age, and I had to get out and work and take care of her because I didn't want my mom to do it. I wanted to take care of my own child. I didn't want to put that responsibility on my mother. Mm-hmm. And so this was before my first marriage. Okay.
Okay.
So I got married and I had 2 more children. And then I had a 4th child. So through it all, I was back and forth in and out of church, in the choirs, being a mother. And matter of fact, my oldest daughter right now is a gospel singer, and she's a minister as well. And that was my first child. Okay, Teresa. And she grew up in the church because I was in the church at the time that I had her. So she grew up in the church, and she married. Her husband's a minister, and she has 6 children.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
Ta-da!
That's just unusual these days. I mean, to have that many children. My grandmother my mother's mother had 7 children. And it's just unusual to meet someone today that has that number of children.
Well, my daughter, Teresa, got married out of high school, and they're still together today. And it's been, I think they've been together now 30 some years. Because remember, I had her young. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I have some beautiful grandchildren. And, like I said, I was a working mother. I've done several things. My first job at the age of 16 was working for the Siltest Milk Company on Cedar Avenue, tossing number 8 boxes on an assembly line. Okay. And so I was really feeling my way to, because I didn't graduate, I had to get out and take care of my kid. I had to find ways that I can work and take care of her. So I always looked around, and I always got a job. I always had a job since I was 16 years old.
Okay. So let's fast forward, because I'm sure you had a variety of jobs in all this time up until 1984 when you decided to embark upon this career as a singer. But before we get there, I just want to find out from you if you experienced what a lot of sisters and people who come out of the church. Did you meet any resistance to you singing secular music after having been immersed in gospel for so long?
No.
Okay. You are well into your adulthood, so Mama wasn't there to say shame on you for singing that secular stuff.
My mom would never have done that. My mother was the type of lady that accepted us for the way that we were. She never put us down. She always, we were all, she treated us like individuals. It was 10 of us too. I had 4 sisters and 5 brothers. So my mother, she didn't whatever we did, she accepted it. She never was critical about what I was doing. My mom was in the church. Matter of fact, there was a Tri-C concert, and it's the first time I asked my mother if she would come, because I knew she'd go to church and they didn't, do that. And surprisingly, she did come to my concert, and I said, you know what, I'm going to have to talk to your minister about you. And she says, well, you're my daughter. She said, that's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm. And what was her reaction to what she heard that day?
She enjoyed it. And she looked at me one day and she said, Rena, my family called me Rena. She said, Rena, you're a star. And I looked at my mother and I said, Ma, don't say that. She said, well, you are. And that's what my mother saw in me.
Mm. So was that kind of fuel for your fire then?
That really surprised me. I didn't. In a way, it was a little embarrassing to me because I didn't feel that way. But when my mother said it, I thought more, better of what I was doing, because I always thought I had to do more and more and more to be better and better in what I was trying to do. But my mother saw something that I didn't see.
Mm. So let's fast forward to your very first concert. Can you remember what it was for you to perform as Shirley Cook, the singer, with your band for the first time?
My band. Okay, I used to go to the jam sessions at Rayzell. The first group that I worked with was Carl Ace Carter. Carl Ace Carter, Newman Williams, and Lawrence Jacktown Jackson. Like I said, I would go around to jam sessions. I met Carl Ace Carter on the West Side through a coworker of mine, because he knew I wanted to sing as well. He said, I want to take you to a place on the West Side to hear this piano player. And I went over there. We went that weekend, and I was so amazed because I had never heard anyone play piano like that in my life. And these singers were coming in, and there's a difference between a pianist and an accompanist. A pianist and accompanist. He was all of that. He knew how to accompany a singer and make her sound good. Ace Carter was just awesome. He was a wonderful, wonderful gentleman, And I'm listening to these singers, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, they've been out here a long time, longer than me. These are things that go through my mind because I'm green. I'm like, for the first time hearing this, I did know a couple of songs, and they had to write their names down if they wanted to sing, and I just put my name on the list. And I went up to sing, and it was amazing. I enjoyed every moment of it. And then that evening I asked him if he could work with me and help me to learn my songs. And he said that he could not. He said, because everybody wants to be famous and everybody wants to sing and this and that. And I was looking at him like, well, that's not me. I'm not trying to be famous. I said, I just want to learn songs. I'll pay you whatever you want, because I had a pretty decent job at the time. And he said, that's not the point. He said, just everybody wants to be out here famous and singing and this and that. I said, if you ever get time, I said, here's my number. Please call me. I said, I really want to learn these songs. And it was a week later he called me. And he asked me when could I come to his home. And I went over. I said, whenever. And I went over to his home the next day after that call and started practicing with him. And practicing with him, it wasn't even a month after that. He said, there's an audition coming up. And it's in Chagrin. It's at the Copperfield. He said, if you come out there, the owner is going to choose a singer that he wants to work with my band. And so I got off from work that day. I didn't have time to go home and dress. I had my clothes in the car. I drove 25 miles out Chagrin, got to the club in the parking lot, threw my little clothes on, and went in the club, and it was packed. And when I got inside, I was like, oh, my goodness. I've never been in a club like, scene like that, and all these people in there. They're having a ball, and the band's playing, and I'm saying, uh-oh, what am I going to sing? Now, out of a few songs, I'm fighting over what am I going to sing. So either way it goes, I got up and I did my songs. I did 2 songs. I think one of them was You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To. And the other one was Angel Eyes. And at the end of the evening, I got the job. So I worked with Ace at the Copperfield. That was my first job. And I worked at the Copperfield in Chagrin Falls for 26 weeks with the band.
Wow. I got to tell you this real quick story, and then we got to take a break. I met Ace Carter in Jacktown at the very first jazz concert that I attended at Kent State University. This was back in the 70s. And this is where I started my career as a jazz photographer. And I have a picture. I'm going to send it to you. It's me and Sonny Stitt sitting on a couch in the Music and Speech building at Kent State University. Ace Carter and Jacktown played behind Sonny Stitt at Kent State, and I was there to document it. This story that you're telling me today is riveting, and the time is flying. We've actually done 3 segments, and we got to come back and do another one. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more from Cleveland legend Shirley Cook right here on 95.9 FM WOVU. We'll be right back.
I say that my love's misspent with angel eyes tonight. Well, drink up on you, people.
Crazy T, what are you doing?
What you mean?
Why are you about to throw that out the window?
I'm saying I'm done with it. I didn't want to junk your car up. I was looking out for you.
No, I'm sure we'll make a stop. You could throw it out of a trash can or something. In fact, wait, I got a little bag I usually keep, right here.
I'm saying, is it that big a deal? The window's right here.
Of course. This is our community. We live here. This is our community.
I mean, yeah, I know. You're right.
Why would you want to junk up our own community?
Yeah, I ain't know you was going to get all, whatever, civil rights on it or whatever. You're right. You're right. My bad. I didn't know.
You should be in the uproar yourself, too, when you see people do it.
You know what? I'm going to do better, because, this is my community. I got to live here. You're right.
We all need to do better. Don't litter.
Littering is a serious offense, punishable by fines up to $500 and or 60 days in jail.
Don't litter. This is your community. Brought to you by WOVU 95.9 BBC Community Radio. Our voices united.
Hi, this is Eric Nolan of the OJs, and I want to wish each and every one of you a very happy Thanksgiving. And thank you for tuning in to TENS, The Eric Nolan Show on WOVU 95.9 FM, Cleveland.
You're listening to Open Door Cleveland with Vince Robinson and my very special guest, singer Shirley Cook. And she just told us how she hooked up with Ace Carter, and a week later, they're doing things together on a regular basis. So pick it up from there. You came back to Ace. He said, okay, you're not just somebody who wants to be famous. You're serious about learning these songs. What happened?
So that's what happened. I went to, he invited me out to the Copperfield. And out there, there were several singers out there that evening. I remember very clearly Doris Long, a singer. I loved Doris Long. Doris Long was always very, very respectful, and she always was very nice to me when I would come out to the club. And I just, right today, Doris Long is still living, and she's singing on the West Side. And she's a wonderful vocalist, and she worked with Ace Carter as well. But I worked out there for 26 weeks, and every week the club was filled. And it wasn't just because of me. It was because it was that way when I got there. But it was so much that I learned how to share the stage. Ace and the guys always looked after me. Weasel Parker on saxophone. You know, Newman Williams was from Akron, Ohio. And these guys, I mean, they were masters. And I worked with Ace at not only the Copperfield. From there, we did country clubs, and we did different places. You know what I'm saying? Where you black tie affairs, and it was just wonderful. Mm-hmm. And so from there, I started getting around a little bit, you know. And another gentleman that I started working with, Frank Lyman, Billy Hatton. You know, these are all on keys. And there's another guy, Kenny Allen. Kenny Allen was my friend, and he took me around to a lot of different clubs in Cleveland and to listen to music and stuff, you know, and I was very happy about that. I had some good friends. And Kenny was singing at the 152nd Street Show Bar on St. Clair. And I said, wow, this is really nice. They were jamming in there. Leonard Anderson, Kenny Allen, Billy Hatton were all playing there. And so one evening, Kenny said to me, he said, why don't you take over this job? I said, I can't do that. You know, I never led a band, you know, like that. And he said, yes, you can. He said, I have to start working more overtime, so I'm not going to be able to do it. He said, and I think you can handle it. So I started singing at the 152nd Street Show Bar with Billy Hatton, Leonard Anderson, and I forgot, I think Liza was the drummer. It's a guy named Liza. He was the drummer. And so those places helped me to learn the songs that I was practicing at home with the band. I was always learning on the job. You know, I didn't have anybody to come over my house and practice with me. Okay. When I did a job, when I went out to sing, I went out to sing what I knew with a band that I had never even rehearsed with. You know, so it was on the spot. And Billy Hatton, after we worked for some months, Billy Hatton left and was going to leave. And I called Eddie Baccus. I was almost intimidated by that because I didn't think that Eddie Baccus would work with me. And he asked me, he said, is Billy still working with you? And I said, yeah. He said, well, whenever you get done working with Billy, then you can call me. And if I'm free, I can work with you. Because Eddie's thing is, he's not going to bump anybody off of an engagement, you know. So when I knew Billy was going to leave, I called Eddie, and Eddie started working with me at 152nd Street Show Bar. I think we stayed there almost 3 years. And in the interim of that, I had no problem sharing the stage with people that came in because I learned that from Ace Carter. Ace always let me know that nobody can take anything away from you. You know it's okay if you want to share the stage. But this is your job. You do it the way that you want to do it, you know. And so I treated that way. I was always a person that wanted to be on time. I wanted the band to be on time. You know, on breaks, they might have said, well, who does she think she is? You know, I'd be like, hey, it's time to get started. And, you know, I had a lot of respect from all of these guys in Cleveland. I'm telling you, we had a good time. I enjoyed myself. I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful for all that I've learned and the people that I've met and that I'm still meeting, especially at this age. Mm-hmm. I've traveled with, I got to a place where I could travel a little bit and meet great, great jazz people, and that's an honor,
Yes.
So from the 152nd Street Show Bar, I started getting jobs, a lot of different jobs, and I was down at 6th Street Under for 7.5 years downtown. And I was at the same time, I was at the High and Dry at Lincoln Park on the west side for 6.5 years. And this was Wednesdays, I was at the 6th Street Under, and on Saturdays, I was at the High and Dry.
And all the while, you were also working jobs?
In between.
Okay. All
yes.
Right. So I'm going to be transparent, as I usually try to do on the show, and just let folks know that we actually encountered each other at Glen Village a few days ago, more than a couple of days ago, but a few days ago we connected, and you told me about meeting Abby Lincoln, and I was just absolutely enthralled with what you were sharing. We have a few minutes, and I do want you to come back to Mr. Baccus, because I think he's an integral part of your story. But could you just tell us about what it was like to meet her and to be so lovingly embraced by her?
Yes. I would come home from work every day just to listen to Abby Lincoln. I fell in love with Abby Lincoln's music and the way that she told stories. I loved Abby Lincoln. At one point I was on the Jazz Society. I was on the board with the Jazz Society. And we'd have our meetings once a month to plan for the musicians that would be coming into town for the State Theater, wherever, the Jazz Festival and things like that. So I had suggested that they bring Abby Lincoln in at a meeting. And they were talking, and they said, well, Abby's a little hard to handle. And I said, she shouldn't be. I said, if you bring her in, she'll sell it out. I had never met her. All I know is I loved her music. And so the next meeting that I came to, I asked them if they had spoken with anyone regarding Abby. And they said that, yeah, and they told me what kind of money. They were talking about what kind of money that she wanted. And I said, well, give it to her. I said, pay her. I said, because she's going to sell out, And so Abby did. They got her. I was on every board, everything that I could get on to be around artists that come into Cleveland and musicians. So I was on the transportation. I was on whatever they wanted me to do. I was there. So the transportation committee people, Fred Landers was going to pick up, well, this was for the Art Museum in Cleveland. Fred Landers was going to pick up Abby Lincoln, and I was going to pick up her band. So Fred said, well, you love Abby Lincoln. He said, why don't you pick Abby up and I'll pick the band up? And I was like, wow, okay, I'll do that, and I was excited about it. So a friend of mine and I, we went to the airport to pick Abby up for when she arrived in Cleveland. And it was very interesting, and I was excited. But I was also, very careful not to talk about anything about me. I just wanted to make sure that she was comfortable. And we got in the car, and I told her, I says, well, anytime you want to do something, you need something, call me. I gave her 2 phone numbers that she could call. And my friend that was riding with me, she said, Abby, Shirley sings. And I was looking through my rear view mirror, and I said, why would she say that? because I wasn't trying to go there. My focus was on taking care of Abby because I felt like she's going to be here for some concerts, whatever she needs. I wanted her to be as comfortable as possible. And so Abby said, so you sing, you're a singer. And I said, yes. And she said, where are you performing? And I said, well, I'm at the High and Dry, and I am at 6th Street Under as well. She said, I want to come and hear you. I said, well, I can make that happen. I said, if you want to come. She says, no, I'll be there. And so I had a phone call while I was at the club in the Flats, and it was Abby Lincoln. And she said, Shirley, I'm coming to hear you. And I'm not coming there. I will be at your second job. I said, well, you want me to get you a ride? She says, no, I'll be there. So I'm at the club, and in walks Abby with my friend that I rode, that was with me going to the airport. I didn't know that. And Abby came in, and it was just like, one of my friends coming in. It wasn't the band didn't know anything because I didn't tell the band that she was coming. I wanted Abby to just be comfortable and have a good time because she had just, performed. And so I felt like, hey, this is cool. And a lot of the people wouldn't have known who she was anyway at the place where I was. So I was singing when she came in the door. And then I said, I'm going to sing a song for Abby. And the song in my head was Too Marvelous for Words. And I told the band quietly what I wanted to do. They gave me a little tiny intro, and I started singing after I said, there's a lady here that I admire, and she doesn't even know that she's my mentor, but I love her very much, and I would like to sing this song for you. And I started the song, and Abby put her thumb up and just sung the song, And after I was done, I sat at the band was taking a break, and I sat at the table. My girlfriend said, girl, I almost fell off my chair. I said, well, what happened? She said, as you were getting ready to sing that song, Abby said, Shirley's marvelous. And it was just like it was just right when I was getting ready to sing. And that must have been when she put her thumb up, because I have a picture of that as well. So we had a wonderful evening. And Abby told me on that particular evening that I needed to come to New York. And she said, that's where the music is. She said, you're wonderful. She said, and I'd like for you to visit me at my home. I said, well, when can I come? And she said, whenever you want. She said, the door is open.
Wow.
So it was April of that year that she did the concert. And in June of that same year, I was in New York.
Okay. So we're going to have to pick this story up because our hour is just gone. And I don't want to.
Yeah, well, maybe if we had left all the kids out and everything, and we just.
That's all right.
We just start talking about the music. I could go on and on about the experience.
That's okay because we do have time to do more, and we will. But unfortunately, we've run our course with this hour. So I want to thank you for joining us, and I will promise my listening audience that they will get to hear the Abby Lincoln story part 2 because they gotta hear this. But with that, I want to thank you for joining me today and also thank my listening audience for tuning in. Just know that you can pick this podcast up on my Facebook page, and you can also pick it up on the YouTube channel for Vince Robinson. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make it a great day, Cleveland. Peace.
Thank you so much, Vance. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being here.
All right.
But you're not at home anymore. Till true love come my way on this carnival day. That's the way it will be in the life of this fool. Will true love come my way on this carnival day, or will I be alone in my dreams?